There's only been a few times where I've cried in a cinema. This is one of the times when it's not just tearing up. I absolutely bawled my eyes out during this entire sequence. And I've been trying to figure out what made this work so much. And in this interview, we did. In this episode, I'm talking to the Oscar-nominated editor of Wicked, the biggest musical event of this decade.
It's a misconception that musicals are easier to cut. I find that this genre to be the hardest.
In this masterclass episode, we look through the entire film, breaking down every meticulous frame.
It takes forever, that's just one transition.
We break down the iconic Defying Gravity musical sequence. Genuinely, is one of the most beautiful sequences in film.
I hope you're happy.
And how the secret to milking the emotion from your film could actually be to remove the audio. Alright, stop it. Make me cry. This is the Editing Podcast, brought to you by Lect. If you're new here, please subscribe. As I've been doing this show, one of the big cardinal sins I've always been warned about is never edit to music. However, I bet with this being a musical, was this kind of the exception?
No, in fact, one of the things, even as the editor cutting a musical, is how do I cut something if there was no music at all? If I'm not telling the story dramatically, if I'm not picking performance to lead the editing, then ultimately everything's going to fall apart. It might feel like a music video, and that, you have flashy editing. Sometimes when I'm editing musical sequences,
I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy too.
I'll turn all the music off, or sometimes all the audio off, just to see if I'm telling the story visually. It's a misconception that musicals are easier to cut. I find that this genre to be the hardest, because I have so many balls in the air between live vocals, keeping things in rhythm, as far as if I'm stretching out a song or condensing a song. With this particular film, I have VFX, I have flying monkeys, I have flying witches, I have goats. Many sections. It took a very long time to come together. The first number, No One Wants a Wicked, took 8 months to figure out. There was so many pieces. No One Wants a Wicked isn't a banger number. It's like this mob mentality burning this effigy. There is nothing nice about that song. It just felt like a behemoth to tackle. This is your first song in your movie that isn't fun to listen to. Having audience resonate with Glinda, that she's both sort of uplifting the crowd, but also you see a little crack in her to see that this is her friend, and that we are going to have a deeper experience than we thought when we first walked into the theater. That just took forever to figure out.
I felt that, because editing nor the storytelling never specifically said, oh, by the way, Glinda was best friends with her. But I felt that history and the implication of that history so much during that whole sequence. My favorite moment, when I really did feel it, is when everyone, again, the effigy is burning, everyone is celebrating, and then there was this one shot when you held on her, sort of just walking down and her head's lower. And that, to me, just told me everything about her conflict in it. How were you able to also construct more instances of that conflict with Glinda and the mob?
My first assembly, I cut to the mob like crazy. My instinct was to go to all these amazing dancers, showing how angry and the mob is. But we felt like the more we stuck with Glinda as a character, and to see her transitions over the course of that song, the better. And of course, Ariana Grande was giving this amazing performance, and it was very nuanced, very sort of there was certain takes that were does she seem a little bit happier here, or here she's covering a little bit? If she turns just at the right moment, she actually looks a little, sad.
I mean, I did know her. That is, our paths did cross.
Just experimenting a lot with, your coverage. And I had 250 hours of footage between the two movies. So I had all the options. But what is the option to suck in the audience? sticking with something that feels like it's right in your gut or gives you goosebumps or makes you cry. And again and again and again, as we were constructing this, we use that to sort of help us guide us.
Loathing, unadulterated loathing.
Well, what do I love about Loathing is the sort of tit-for-tat quality of it.
For your face,
Your voice.
your clothing. Let's just say.
I love how fast this and short this song is, but it also was really challenging because I have a lot of stuff to squeeze in here. I had a lot of coverage. I had a lot of options. They over choreographed between different settings, so I can cut to any one setting that I wanted to. So my first cut was all split screens. John saw that cut and he was like, okay, just calm down a little bit. I like the idea of the split screens, but maybe we can do it in a way that feels fresh and then we can leave it by. This is one of the few songs that has a lot of conflict built into it.
Dear Galinda, you are just too good. How do you stand it? I don't think I could. She's a terror, she's a tartar. We don't mean to show a bias, but Galinda, you're a martyr.
Is there something that leads it to who's winning?
Or Galinda forced to reside.
We can do anything. The worst that can happen is we just take it out. But so when people started responding to it, it felt right to include.
Essentially, all right, gimmick's done. Let's move on.
Yes, exactly.
I keep falling for that myself as an editor. I call it the Jurassic Park method. You know, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
It's hard because, you get really excited and then suddenly you're like, okay, I've just spent maybe 20 hours on this split screen, sequence, and I'm in London and I'm there until like 2 a.m. and it was just like, what are you doing?
My pulse is rushing.
My head is reeling.
Yeah, well, my face is flushing.
I'm split screening this. Isn't it great? Like, yeah, it's great, but it's also crazy. Like, I didn't use a click track or anything to figure out where I'm going to cut. I just felt like, literally, what is this feeling? What is the feeling that it lends itself to the next moment? And I often use, the performance, and then I use camera movements, and I use the Walter Murch method of something throwing to the next cut. Like, I use those more than beats almost 90% of the time. Like, I don't use how do I feel like something should build rhythmically from the
She makes me laugh every time that happens.
I love seeing the crack there in the window, which is just the scene earlier, and so I just love having that nod there, and there's still story going on.
And then when they're actually finally friends, that window's just magically fixed. Was that part of John's design for the camera movement to be matching?
Yes, 100%. All these pans and into the next sections were not easy. Just trying to find the right take, they had the right pace, and then ultimately I was ramping one way or another, trying to make that feel seamless. Again and again, working with our VFX department to make sure that feels right. I mean, it's kind of a gag that a lot of filmmakers have done, but when you're doing it in a musical, when it's so regimented to the music, it's really, really tough. All the little details, even the backgrounds or extensions and VFX and stuff, you don't know that there's blue screen back there. Out the window, that's all blue screen as well. Just trying to make it all feel very in camera and seamless. It takes forever. That's just one transition.
Hi, hello. I hope you're enjoying this episode. Well, actually, you can't really answer that because it's like a one-way conversation at the moment, so I don't really know. Tell me if you're leaving in the comments, maybe. So, little known fact, before I was a filmmaker, I was actually a big old theatre kid, and one of my favourite productions that I did was Wicked. I was that shy kid on stage who belted his heart out when he was singing Defying Gravity, Good, and of course, Popular. The very songs that we're talking about in this episode. Hopefully no one actually finds that footage. It's on my G drive, please don't hack it. And now, because of Licked, you can now license musicals that you can put in your content that genuinely elevates the quality of your work. Yeah, I'm serious. And there's tons of data that shows that using recognizable music in your videos gets you more views, watch time, and of course, engagement. Can you even imagine the type of content you could make with this ability? You know what, don't imagine, just go and bloody make it. You can now, with Licked. And it's not just musicals. They've got Drake, Sabrina Carpenter, Linkin Park. Oh, and of course, don't worry about copyright claims. Licked takes care of that before you publish. Licked has given me a 7-day trial to give away, which means you can get a free mainstream track and an unlimited access to the stock music. So I wouldn't just wait around to click on it. You should do it now, because the next time they're going to allow me to do this might not be for a good while. So as always, you can start with the link in the description. Take a browse through Licked. I'll see you in there.
Linda forced to reside with someone so disgusted-ified. We just want
I love this.
But it was that one quick cut of her turning her head, and then I think she does it again. It's essentially the same beat, just again.
It's very similar, yeah. Because she's like, okay, I'm going to ignore these people. And then they're like, no, we're on your side. Glinda, we're on your side. It's like, everything going on with all the utensils, it's all synchronous. It's throwing to each other. The cuts are like throwing back and forth. I just love using that to help guide the edit. It's not on beats. It is movement and what's happening with the actors that's guiding me. It's not musically timed anything. It's what I think is happening with the movements that's guiding each cut.
Oh, that's very powerful. That's a very good touch.
Watch how they all sit down the desk, and that helps feed into that next cut.
Oh, you're so right.
So I was always trying to find connections of movement to help guide me into different moments. So it's just like, okay, so I was just using the sweep of every one of those desks to like help guide me, all sort of do that sort of Karate Kid move right there. I just love that, and then you hold on to this now classic shot of the end of this song, of Ari and the rest of Shiz students like just killing it coming towards us. And this was something that I basically did in the assembly. These pops, John never intended it, but I was just like, how can I now cut to the music of these little stabs of music that feels like something that could just sort of recap all these locations and again use movement and use all the Shiz students to sort of heighten the end of the song. When she's coming down, she thinks she's winning.
Yeah.
And then she looks up and she sees Elphaba with Morrible.
Yeah.
Elphaba is winning. There's something that feels like a handoff here that feels really fun,
And it's very well like represented in like very brief seconds. There's only been a few times where I've cried in a cinema. One of them is Inside Out. That's kind of opened the floodgates. One of them was Mission Impossible for some reason. No, it was great movies. But then this is one of the times when it's not just tearing up. I absolutely bawled my eyes out during this entire sequence. And I've been trying to figure out what made this work so much. And I'm kind of going to put the words in your mouth a little bit, but I realized genuinely this morning when I was listening to the soundtrack, when it is Dancing Through Life, it's a 12-minute number. It's one of the longest tracks throughout the entire album. And that was when I realized why this sequence works, is because we are indulging in so much music and then nothing.
Yeah, there's something really amazing about Dancing Through Life in the Oz's Ballroom, which is about the culmination of things starting in the library, which is very joyous and fun, and people are following Fierro. They're following his lead, and we're just enjoying that. And little do you know, you start to transition to the Oz's Ballroom, where Elphaba has been set up to fail, and embracing how ostracized and bullied she feels. But to force the audience to understand her point of view, and doing that through being really bold with the silences and the looks and stretching the pace to where it breaks. When I first watched the dailies of the scene, it was these long 12-minute takes of Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande entering the Ozdesk ballroom all the way to the very end, and every single one of those takes made me cry like a baby. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this now? I can't just have a raw take. So I was actually terrified of the footage because I didn't know how I was going to be able to construct a scene. Again, having so much coverage, so many options. And whether or not I could be bold the way that the raw dailies could be, like, I just didn't know if we can get away with it. It's like a lab experiment for myself and for others. Like, you're just like, you want me to make you fall in love with some characters? Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Well, tell me how you made me fall in love with them.
Well, first of all, just watching Elphaba look hopeful for 1 second. Okay, she doesn't know what's going to happen. She's put on this hat. And then we find Glinda. And then she hides her wand. She's just feeling awful about what she's just done. This person made this gesture she didn't know. She told Morble
that I include you in our sorcery seminar.
just moments before, and she's feeling awful about what she's done to this person. So there's all these like really subtle things that's happening with every single tape.
I know it's a simple thing. You never had Glinda go, oh, I feel bad now. You know?
Yeah.
It's actually simply just a simple gesture with the arm, hiding the wand. Already tells me everything I need to know.
Yep.
Like, not a single word of dialogue happens for so long.
Which I love. I just love, all about looks. Now we're just tracking everybody in here. She's about to leave, and everyone's going to start laughing at her again. She's like, what? Wait, what am I doing here? People are still making fun of her. She's still trying to take power. Again, I'm shifting between point of views and trying to include, the crowds in a way that feels really elegant. Just including everybody. Withholding, cutting to Glinda again, and sort of just keeping it more centered on Elfie at the moment between what she's trying to take back something with the crowds. There's something about her attempt to earning that power back.
Interesting, because now we know that Glinda has essentially the regret. She's already regretting this. So actually cutting to her during this actually gives Elphaba more power, but we need to make Elphaba feel even more vulnerable. So now actually not cutting to Glinda and not showing her regret makes her feel so much more isolated.
I think so, yeah, I think so.
So the alienation from her sister now makes her feel even more isolated.
When you're watching somebody do something embarrassing, that makes you really uncomfortable, and you sometimes want to do something to help them. Like, I think we were instinctually human in that way. They were just like, oh, just don't do that, just stop, just get out, and I just love that.
Still, damn it, it's happening already. I'm tearing up. I don't know what it is about that clap.
There's so much power. It's so unexpected, too. She's shut it all out, okay? And there's some power. She's like, yeah, motherfucker, I got this. But there's also, it feels even more alienating in some ways. Like, she's winning, but there's loneliness in there, and there's that shift in point of view that doesn't quite make sense, but also makes sense. I just love the gestalt of all these sort of weird things that make you feel something. Again, it gives me goosebumps when I see it, because there's something about all the pieces together that feels very human and real.
For her to essentially silence the laughter with that clap. But the reverb out also, I guess, sort of represents her sort of personal experience. She didn't demand everyone to be silent. It was like she's trying her best to ignore it because she's trying to simply summon tremendous strength. I think that is why still that clap still gets me, and I think that is the most relatable, emotional experience I've had in a cinema for a very long time. But again, what inspired this? Was this in the script? Was it John's idea? Was it your idea? Who came up with this idea?
The clap was something that he came up with, Chris Scott and Cynthia, in the rehearsal process. This weird deconstructed dance. And so when Alice Brooks and John was blocking the scene, they're like, maybe we could do these little pops. to sort of heighten these moments of strength. The sonic thing was something I just instinctually thought I should try in the edit. I have no idea why. I was just like, how do I even enhance the isolation and the power, and how does that feed into the rest of the sequence?
She doesn't give a twig when anyone thinks.
Of course she does. She just pretends not to.
Why was it so important for you for Glinda's line to be on her for that?
I just happen to love her saying that and looking at Elfie at the same time, and so that seemed to stick, you know.
But again, it's such a great line as well for me. I relate to that a lot as well.
Again, getting goosebumps. It's like I can't watch, and he's like, no, I want to watch the train wreck.
Or I was hearing people sniffle, like that was all I could hear. I could barely hear the dialogue. It was like because everyone was like, like even that.
There's a power too to the messiness of this scene. It just feels very raw, and even though you have somebody who's green in the center of it, there's just something really raw, and there's no coldness to it. And so I just love the sort of rawness of it all. I worked with Jack Dolman, my music editor. I invited Jack to London to just temp a couple scenes. And this was one of the first scenes I gave to him. And he put in some of the dancing through life moments in there. And then we kept experimenting again and again on the stage between what he had done originally and John Powell's score that would come in. We don't know what Glinda's going to do. We just assume that she's going to make fun of her, or she's going to, but making this really awkward, and then she's like makes this sort of half-ass attempt at doing the dance, and
then the violin comes in, and then that exchange, that was a really, really important exchange of eye contact. Why was that important for you to get there?
For me, it wasn't enough that Glinda made that gesture. So Elphaba is almost sort of like, all right, so what? I love the ambiguity about whether or not she's making fun of her or not. There's a lot of subtext, a lot of interpretation there. Is she being made fun of, or if she's not making fun of her, it's like it's not enough of a gesture. Like what are you doing here? Like, I don't know you. You're not my friend.
Oh, stop it. Make me cry.
This is one of my favorite shots in the movie right there.
The editing here is so elegant now. Like, how did you make these cuts feel so elegant now?
Again, just sort of using them as a guide, having that shot through Elfie's elbow, just capturing and just making it feel very poetic, just making it feel very quiet and soft. This moment where we don't see what Glinda's seeing until there. Turns out she's crying already. And then she says quietly,
this shot, I think even Ariana said like it's okay, it was kind of improvised or something like that. Tell me more of why this shot became such an important shot for the whole movie.
Well, it was really important to understand when is the right moment for her to cry. And again, there was a messiness to some of the way that the blocking was, and how the camera just let them do the work and follow away. And this is like, you just like lightning in the bottle, where you see like, okay, she's going to cry almost on cue. Ariana Grande is still going to be in character and catch that moment and put her hand up right at the right time, and then she cries again. Like, that is just stuff that just goes down in like history as this, like, again, like lightning in the bottle. Everything came together at once.
Genuinely, this is one of the most beautiful sequences in film. And the energy starts picking back
Yeah,
up.
we start catching up some other people. I love this beat here because it's a comedic moment that I'm just sort of squeezing in. I love when movies do that, when you have something really emotional and then you could squeeze in something that is slightly comic, and that'll help you even release more emotion. In some ways, it's almost like I've already lit the match and now I just throw a little kindling in there.
We've all seen it when someone's crying and then someone just says a joke and they're the one that laughs the most because like there is such an intimate connection between crying and laughter. Would make someone who's probably trying to hold back their tears. That's probably gonna make them like
seriously.
That's it. They've got that.
Like, oh my god,
that little bit of comedy. Fine, I'll cry. Fuck you. You know.
That's all this movie's about. It's about their friendship. That's it.
Done. That's
Done
it.
and done. And so if you don't believe in it, like the rest of it doesn't make any sense. Well, look, Defying Gravity is arguably the most famous song in Broadway history.
I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy now. I hope you're happy how you hurt your cause forever. I hope you think you're clever.
I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy too. I hope you're proud how you would grovel in submission to feed your own ambition.
So what I love about it is meeting the expectations for an audience who is like, okay, what do you have here? But also the fact that I start and stop the song a number amount of times. And that is really ballsy in a film that is building to a climax.
Citizens of Oz!
So Morrible, and this is actually happens in the Broadway show too, interrupts them. We're still in the song, mind you, but now Morrible starts to tell all of Oz, like, there's somebody amongst us that is wicked, and she's a monster. There's this really powerful moment on Elphaba.
Her green skin is but an outward manifestorium of her twisted nature.
Yeah, it's just like I'm begging for it to cut because it's like
It's so uncomfortable.
yeah.
Repulsion. This wicked witch.
And I just love this moment. Just a little bit of a point of view from Glinda. A little affected by it and a little bit like there's something wicked about that, but also like really vulnerable at the same time. I don't know. There's something that I really love about this shot.
Don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid. It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
And by the way, I have cleans of her too, like picking these moments where including them or going to a point of view, whether it's clean or dirty, you know, having sometimes Elfie in the frame and sometimes having it feel like more of a direct point of view.
To an extent, we're beginning to see essentially the end of a friendship. So keeping that sort of thread there a little bit rather than just staying purely in Elphaba's point of view, just by kind of helps signal sort of like the transition is about to happen.
You know, sometimes when you're cutting things, you don't even know instinctually why you're doing things, but you know, but you're right. Feeling that separation shows how things are evolving very quickly between the two.
Well, that's just me. I just love overanalyzing everything. Joe said the same thing. I was like, you're seeing things I never thought of.
Defying gravity, and you can't pull me down.
She's kind of connecting the dots a little bit, or
Yeah.
trying to.
It's like whatever you think you're about to do, you can't do.
Kiss me good, I'm defying gravity, and you can't pull me down.
Now, this cut was controversial because it's like, you know, she's basically finishing the phrase of the song. And so, but instead I wanted to go to her point of view and have her in it. And so there was debate about whether or not I should do it. I was like, well, I really want to take in the shot. I think there's some power to it. And if we're still listening to the lyrics, we're not going to be taken out of the song.
You don't know what you're doing with that, please. Stop!
The music stops.
Yes. Again, the music stops. The song has stopped.
But why was it so important for you and John to just really just pull everything back again?
Because we want to make us feel that she's failed, you know? And again, we're setting up for the next moment. which is going to be the rise of the broom and putting the hat and the cape by really pressing the brakes and throwing the audience out for a second and making you feel vulnerable and raw and making the audience work for it. I think there's something to that.
It's kind of like hitting the brakes to allow yourself to accelerate again.
Now, what I love about this broom is just minutes before, she had used the broom to lock the doors from the guards who were chasing them. And then that same broom is going to be an iconic piece of the puzzle, finishing the origin story of the Wicked Witch of the West. And so I just love how things that we've set up earlier are starting to pay off.
I guess to characterize the broom, I guess, as well, is probably a very challenging process.
100%. It took a long time as far as like getting the twist and the feel and how this is gliding into Cynthia.
Come with me. Think of what we could do together. Unlimited.
It's really helpful when you have Cynthia Erivo saying her line and then getting straight into a song.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that she can do that live and not break character and make it feel organic really helps us editorially.
Oh, so it happens in the same shot?
Yep.
Like a mistake could have been like a sweeping shot as she starts singing, like that's reminding us we're in a musical.
I guarantee you I had that. Now let's do the sweeping shot.
Yeah.
Are you coming?
Ari's performance says it all in this look. And then within a second, Elphaba starts to realize. But you only do it by holding on to these looks, just milking it.
Milking the emotion one more time.
Alfie, you're trembling.
She's totally like changing the subject. Like she's like, you're trembling. I can't answer this. And what's so great about it is like she's going to get this thing to make her feel warmer. And that thing is going to be the cape that helps complete the puzzle pieces of the Wicked Witch of the West. It's just so many. It's operating on so many fun levels and so many emotional levels at the same time. And then as she's doing that, we cut back to Elfie, and she's just feeling the heartbreak. The only person that ever seen her in her entire life is going to abandon her. And we're doing this in the middle of a song that we've stopped down. After a broom had come in, you know, into her hands, and the guards are coming, and a balloon chase and a monkey chase, and we are stopping down for this really intimate, raw, powerful moment in the middle of a song. And so it's just so much fun to stretch and do something differently than what a normal musical might do.
It's so beautiful.
There's two moments when I cut this movie that made me burst out into tears. The first was the Alice's Ballroom, and the second was this moment. Because I didn't even realize that the power of what I was constructing was a goodbye and also the completion of an origin story. Wow. And it was like, wait, what has just happened here? You know, like I knew all the pieces, I knew the scene, but I don't think I knew the emotional impact and the power of that and how unique it was.
That little wink is such a great little moment.
Yeah. And there's debate about the wink, and John is like, no, the wink's amazing. You can have a wink in a fantasy with a witch.
Worth defending, yeah.
And then I love this. She's like, oh my God, I'm seeing what the audience is about to see. I'm seeing.
Oh, yes. You were withholding it just a little bit more.
She's like, okay, now you're okay. And then she's like, wait a minute.
So you had the option for her to step back and we cut to essentially the reveal. But like, no, you decided to hold it.
And now we're just stretching it. We're stretching it.
There it is. You milked the emotion again. I like to describe like zenith cuts, you know, like the whole movie is essentially building up to one moment. I would even say this is like the whole movie is built to that shot. That is the hero shot. That is the moment when that's going to make everyone go, this is beautiful.
Yeah, no, there are certain moments you feel the weight of what's happening with the footage, and you just have this gut that like, okay, I'm getting goosebumps, I'm crying, like, okay, like this has gotta, hopefully the audience is gonna feel the same way. And this is amazing because they finish the song within 30 seconds. They're about to be torn apart, never to be together again, or at least for a while. And so I just love that. I just love that they've just finished the song. We're not milking that part. You almost want more time in that moment, but it's like things are descending so quickly.
Because the emotion was milked so much so prior, essentially you've trained us as audiences that we're going to be in this feeling for as long as possible. And now because we had that expectation, now you take it away from us. That's mean. That's brutal. How dare you?
I'm the one you want. I'm the one you want. It's me.
Okay, badass, like superhero. Nope. This is a new beat that João came up in pre-production. It was never scripted. That she should see her younger self, and by seeing her younger self, that will finally give her over the final power to then basically, fight the wizard, become her own, superhero. And then things start to slow down, and she's like, okay, what is it about her that? And she's like, I've got you. You're the only person I have is yourself.
Oh, that's dark. That's dark but beautiful.
Then finish the song.
I'm defying gravity. I'm flying high, defying gravity, and soon I'll match them in arena.
There was debate again about shouldn't we end the movie on that moment. That's how the song ends. But when I did my original assembly, I was like, I think I need to go around the horn one more time. Glinda being led away by Morrible. In my assembly footage, I went to Jack Dolman, my music editor, and I said, couldn't we like stretch it out like one more time? And I imagine like literally like the 2001 timpanis. Boom, 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 boom.
Here, essentially, we're all having to wait a year for the movie. That's a really long intermission. So we do have to put out that story thread that it's going to continue because we to remind audiences this is going to be a part 2. I actually was very satisfied with this to be continued. Why do you think this one felt more satisfying and conclusive for me to be ready for the next movie?
Nobody in all the walls. No wizard that there is.
I think emotionally, something there, whether it was to be continued or directed by John Chu, there's something about that felt very reminiscent of films like Back to the Future or Empire Strikes Back. I think that maybe us painting it as a like part of a bigger saga, I think we delivered on that. What you had just watched was the first part of a saga.
Yeah, it was like this film feels classic and modern at the same time, and I think I definitely felt that throughout this movie. I would describe this movie felt very proud that it was a musical. What I'm trying to ask is like, how did you make this film feel so proud of itself?
I think ultimately, like the entire studio, Mark Platt, John M. Chu, myself, were like, we're going to embrace what this is and lean all in.
I've been on projects that I was ashamed of doing, or like, I am this type of editor, I don't need to be doing this. And yeah, you can very much tell that I was ashamed to be working on it or something like that. And people have pointed out, like, this doesn't feel right. Something was wrong because, again, I didn't fully embrace it. And again, for me, I'm now looking back at it like, what if I did fully embrace that style? What if I did dive in? All right, I know what I'm getting into. Let's go for it.
If I could speak to that too, like I have an 18-year-old son who's going to school in Chicago, art school, and he's of course has a film bug. God help him. I've told him, like, don't be a snob towards anything, any kind of genre. The more that you embrace whatever you end up doing as an editor, the better. And if you say, well, this isn't on my bag, it was like, well, first of all, nobody says that every single project is going to be exactly what you want. So yeah, you got to try to make it what you can and try to figure it out and make the best product, the best piece of art you can at the time. The notion I'm trying to say is that, you know, if you're not a snob at these things and you embrace it at the time, you're like, work is work and I'm going to learn something from it. And then hopefully if I do a really good job and that person likes me enough for whatever I did, that will lead to something totally random and amazing down the line.
Just by simply embracing something that part of you wanted to say no to.
100%.
And there you go, and a life path was created.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.